Can you think of all the wonderful ways in which your life would be a whole lot better, more grounded, safer, more secure, more well-connected? If you have the ability to read energy accurately, make better decisions, health-wise, financial decisions, relationship decisions, travel decisions, just moving through the world and feeling safe decisions. Well, here's the truth. We all have the ability to do this because we are born with these inherent inner senses that have been, for the last 2,000 years, really gaslit. And so many people have been told don't exist. But not only do they exist, but we need them more than ever now. My name's Sonia Choquette. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to teach you how to read energy accurately, taken from my best-selling book, Read Life Accurately, in every situation. So if you're new to my channel, you read the energy accurately to show up here. So I'm really happy that you're here. And if you've been with me, you know we are working together to be on a very clear trajectory to a higher frequency, to live in the fifth dimension where you have the capacity to tune in, to read life, to read energy, to read people in the moment. You know, that's something AI can never do, by the way. I know everybody's really excited about AI, but I think the real AI is the age of intuition. So let's get to it. Why read energy? You know, I just want to start out with that reading energy is when you tune into a situation before it becomes overtly obvious in the third dimension. For example, I had a client that was a mother of a 14-year-old girl who played a lot of sports, was very active in volleyball, just started cheerleading, just loved to run, race around, presented in all ways as extremely healthy. But she complained to her mother 2 or 3 times that her leg bothered her in a kind of a strange way that she couldn't explain. Somewhere between her groin and her knee, it just doesn't feel right. Now, her dad dismissed it. He's like, no, it's fine. You're just growing pains. You're working out all the time. You know, don't complain. He really did flat out put it down. But her mother didn't feel, my client did not feel like this was first normal for her daughter to complain. And she had complained 2 or 3 times. And every time she did, she was just swept with this very ominous feeling. So instead of dismissing it, she said, well, let's go to the doctor. Let's have a checkup. Let's check it out. The first doctor, very much like her dad, dismissed it. It's fine. She's fine. No big deal. He didn't even really listen to her that closely. He didn't really check it out. So they walked out and her daughter said, well, I guess that's that. And her mom said, I don't think so. I'm going to go for a second opinion. So she found another doctor and she really searched in depth for like strange, unexplained pain in the legs and the groin and in the thigh and the inner thigh. And she went to a doctor who said, this sounds interestingly and oddly enough unusual, but let's do some more tests. Long story short, they found out that she had bone cancer and it was at only stage 1. So they intercepted it very quickly and they treated her daughter before it could have been just a horrendous loss. And she attributed that success to having taken 2 of my classes. She said, you know, normally I would have been just as readily willing to disregard it as my husband, except I did feel in my heart, in my chest, that this was more than something to dismiss. And thank God I did. So there's one good reason. And you know, the reason I point these out is because the first sweep of our ability to read energy, and the one that frankly I think everyone possesses and dismisses, is the protective sweep. The first sweep of reading energy is our survival instinct. We sense and tune into what might threaten us, what might unground us, unmoor us, or where we are in danger. It's a very sharp, what I call your red light intuitive sense. No, by the same token, it's interesting that this is also why most people like, I don't want to hear it, because they equate a warning with trouble. And I always say, well, listen, that's crazy. Denial is no protection. This is a protective feeling, an interception of energy that's dissonant, out of order, going against the grain of your divine life force. So you should always welcome it. I had this is another super practical one, but I had a client who I've taught, and she's been in several of my classes over many years. And she said, my high school girlfriend, and I've stayed close friends with her for a long time, asked me to be a bridesmaid in her wedding. And it was going to be a destination wedding. It was quite a big deal. It was in Hawaii. We live in the Midwest. I lived in Ohio. And she said, as much as I wanted to celebrate her, as much as I wanted to accept and be her bridesmaid, something felt way off, just way, way off. And she pressured me, and I finally accepted, but still refrained from buying my ticket. She kept saying, buy it now, we're 6 months out, you'll get a better deal, and I just couldn't do it. So she didn't buy the ticket. She kept, her mind kept beating her up about it, but her vibe, the energy, left her feeling reassured. Well, then it came time to buy the dress, and it was a big deal, a big to-do, a big investment, and she kept postponing it and postponing it. And finally, the bride said, you have to do this. And she said, okay, I'm traveling. I will do it when I get back, but I'll be at the very last. I'm sorry. And she agreed that she would put it off for another 5 weeks. This bride was super, gunning for getting everything locked down. Well, in that 5 weeks, before she invested in the dress, before she let herself buy a ticket, she and the bride and her fiance had a huge melting down and called the wedding off. So the other bridesmaids were kind of out of luck, and who knows how that unraveled, but she said, I was spared because I don't have the thousands of dollars that would have been involved in me actually being at a destination wedding in a super expensive, designer dress and a bridesmaid dress. And thank God, everything in me energetically did not feel this was going to happen the way she was presenting it. It felt forced. It felt too intense. I couldn't explain it. I didn't want to be a bad guy, but I was protected. These are natural instincts. They are things that I have been teaching for a long time. I want to teach you today. So the first thing to do is to know you cannot read energy if you're in your head. Your head doesn't pick up energy. They can even do brain surgery on your brain and it doesn't feel anything on your head. So it's important to know that you have to get out of your head. You have to get into your body. This is what the receiver starts basically. Well, kind of from your ears, but really from your throat down. So one of the things to do is just look around, take a nice deep breath, breathe in through the nose, open like you're going to sigh, and let out a loud sigh. Ah, and then smile. Just notice how one of the first things that happens when you do that is your brain goes quiet. Like that alone will help you read energy because you're not being bombarded by your own thoughts. You shift your focus into your heart, if you breathe deeply enough into your belly where it picks up energy. And the smile opens the curtains of your heart, front and back. And this is where you start to perceive energy as you become receptive and open. Because if your heart's defended, if it's shut down, you're not going to receive energy very well. You're not going to, you might get an inkling here or there, but because your defenses block energy, you're going to push it away. Now, some of my clients have said, well, if I open my heart, am I vulnerable? And I said, no, you're not opening your heart and giving your power over to anyone. You're just opening it like you're opening a window or a curtain to just check the weather. You can bring it back closed once you check the weather, but don't keep it closed because you don't want to see the weather. So, secondly, when you deal with people and when you enter circumstances and situations, read the vibration before you read the story, before you read appearances, before you take on what comes at you. Now, let me give you an example. I had a client who owns restaurants and was looking for a new location. He saw an advertisement for a restaurant that was selling its location, and he went to it. When he walked in the door, the guy that was selling the location was very warm, very enthusiastic, talked a lot, was pointing out all the wonderful reasons why he should go ahead and buy that location. And he said to the guy, just give me a minute to check the vibe. Just give me a minute. He goes, and the guy was like, well, whatever. Okay, no problem. So he checked the vibe and he said, I just couldn't see myself here. There was something about it that wasn't obvious. There was something about it that was not apparent. And it looked good. It looked good on paper. My partner was interested, but he said, I need to think it over. So after he left, his partner really pushed him on it. We should get this. It's a great location. It was already a restaurant. But he said, don't know. I don't know. Well, he waited a little bit, and within 2 or 3 weeks, all of a sudden there was a major construction going on in the area, in the street, on the corner, and the sidewalk would have made any sort of parking and walk-in traffic pretty difficult for a brand new restaurant. It would have really sabotaged it, and it was scheduled to go on for some time. So he said, I just really dodged a bullet because, well, maybe a chain restaurant could tolerate that. We're just, a couple of independents, and even 6 months of that could have really, really put us back and could have made or break or broken the situation. So I'm so glad I did it. Nobody told me about it. And he said, and you know what? I'm sure that owner knew. That's why he was so eager to offload it onto me. Now, the benefit of reading energy is it picks up on what is not apparent. You can tune into, this is what I've been teaching people to do for over 40 years, 50 years actually. It's what all my books are about. I've written 32 of them because we live in an energetic world. We live in a world where the third dimension, the physical of us, experiences were all first conceived energetically. So when we can tune into things energetically before they manifest in the out picturing, and if they're manifesting in a direction that's not congruent with what is important to us, we could save ourselves a whole lot of trouble. Now, with relationships especially now, there's we are in such a tech overwhelming world, and especially if you're dating people, for example, you're trying to meet someone and your only option is through a dating app, which can make anybody can present any way they want. And we have all heard the endless horror stories of that. I have a client who said that she had been out of relationships for 11 years and really, really wanted to find a partner. So she went on a new dating app. I think it was called Hinge. And she said there was one guy, didn't look like my type, was a bit shorter than me, not enough, but that used to be absolutely a deal breaker for me. Wasn't exactly overwhelmingly handsome, but he had a good vibe. He just had something about him. She said, I swiped past him, came back, swiped past him, came back. And I sat with him and used the skills that I taught her in my class. I closed my eyes and I scanned him at a distance, which is something that you can be taught to do. So I scanned him at a distance and I got a super warm, happy feeling. So I decided to go ahead and meet him. Now, on top of that, he did not live close. He lived about 90 minutes away, an hour and a half away. So when we met and talked, I was fully prepared, she said, to meet him halfway, but he said, no, you don't know me. I'll come to you. And, at least for our first coffee. After that, we'll see how it goes, but let me make the effort, which was also a surprise. She said she hadn't encountered that kind of generosity or gentleman energy in any of her previous dates. And she had gone on, she said, at least 50. At least 50. So when she met him, they met for coffee in the afternoon. It turned into be a 4-hour experience. They went from coffee to a walk to dinner, then went separate ways. But she said all the way home, I was happy. I liked him. I felt safe. He was kind. He was open. Seemed healthy enough. So I decided to keep dating him. Long story short, they are now married. And she is telling the whole world how to find people by reading energy in a new business and how to date and find people energetically. So not only did she find her soulmate, she found a purpose in life. Now that's the kind of stuff that you can learn. That's why I wrote all my books. It's why I teach what I do, because these qualities in you, this a sensitivity in you, is a superpower. So I want you to just pause for a minute and reflect. Do you read energy naturally? And have people told you you're crazy or you're nuts or you get gaslight you or tell you're too sensitive? Because that's what happens to most people who possess this superpower naturally. Now, another way to read life accurately and frankly an essential way is to mind your own business. Now that sounds contradictory, but you have to get back in your own skin. You can't be in everybody's energetic business because you feel it. A lot of empaths, especially super sensitive people, have become very codependent, and it's because you might be a wounded child. There's a difference between high intuitive perception versus wounded child. And you can train out of wounded child, develop this hyper awareness to a empowering superpower, but you might be still in wounded child. So what's the difference? Well, wounded child feels everything quickly, but instead of recognizing this is the energy here and I need to put up my energetic boundaries and stay detached, you suck into it and you try to fix it. You try to please people, you try to flatter them or smooth things out, especially if they're your family members or friends. You can find yourself being completely drained by people and situations because you confuse feeling it or observing it with absorbing it. And when you absorb it, you're sunk. So when you want to read life accurately, you want to have good boundaries. And this is another thing I teach. There's a difference between a boundary, which is this is mine and that is yours, and a wall, which is go away. So if you have a wall up, then you're not going to read energy accurately and you're going to isolate yourself. And a lot of empaths do. They don't want to socialize. They don't want to go anywhere. They don't want to engage with people because they're too drained, only because they're what I call them is turtles without a shell. You're like a big gooey sponge. And so of course you don't want to socialize, but if you learned how to have that boundary, and one of the ways to do that is to breathe up from your feet, and as you exhale, see as you exhale, pushing everything out. A good arm's length around you, above and below, front and back, and to both sides. And then check. Ask yourself, is that mine? Is that my feeling? Is that my issue? And this is really a dramatic example, but I'll tell you how my master teachers taught me. They said other people's drama is like their dirty laundry. You don't want to pick it up and start taking care of it. Hands off. It's theirs. They need to sort it out. You stand back. Doesn't mean you don't care. It just means you don't carry, internalize, and take on what isn't yours. So it takes some attention and practice. This is something else I teach in my book, Read Life Accurately, and what I teach in my classes. Now, the most important thing is to try these 3 things, just really get clear out of your head in the moment. Read the energy. And then one more thing that's really important, say it out loud. Just at least to yourself. If you walk in and something feels off, it's off. If something doesn't feel truthful, probably isn't. If something feels forced, acknowledge it, at least to yourself. And then finally, don't shop it around. Don't look for other people to agree with you because they may not be that perceptive. They may not tune in. You might be the satellite energy and they might be the AM radio that gets a very small bandwidth. So if I want you to put in the comments where you have, or if you are able to read energy, do you listen to it? Have you ignored it? How's that worked out for you? We are rising to 5th dimension, which means very conscious of energy, very much aware we are spiritual beings, energetic beings, and we are communicating with each other, with the earth, with higher dimensions. But we have to start with where we are. So please leave in the comments, because when you claim that I can do this, I am doing this, and even I want to learn how to do this more, because believe me, the greatest successful people in the world all agree. Oprah, Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs when he was alive, Einstein when he was alive, have all said this ability to read energy is why they were phenomenally successful. It is essential. It's natural. I've been teaching it. You can learn. So leave comments to start where I do read energy, maybe where you missed it, didn't listen to it, should have. And how did that work out for you? If this has helped you become more present, more aware, more connected to your body, if it in any way gives you some strength or some extra support in having your life go well and really protecting yourself, just please subscribe, leave a comment, just keep coming, because I'm going to be teaching a whole series now about how to read energy, how to be intuitive, how to turn up your inner senses to work for you so that you can move through this world peacefully, comfortably, safely, and turn it into a superpower. Thanks for tuning in. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe, tell your friends, and I'll see you next week. All my love.